I really want you to see how blockchain as a technology will begin to displace other technologies that are readily used by government and by industry. Simply because when people start adopting it and start using it, other companies will have to adopt and use it to get the same kind of optimizations that these companies that are using it are getting out of it. So companies that are getting the optimizations, for example, of Comgo, and are logged into that particular network to get their financing done, if they're experiencing streamlined processing and better processing, and it is a real benefit to them, then other companies that are not using it are going to fall further and further behind in the competitive spectrum. So simply the fact that companies will join Comgo to make things go smoother will ultimately force other people to use it as well. Bitcoin, for example. Do you get the feeling that if Bitcoin were to actually become a currency like it's supposed to, that the people that manage money in this world are going to be a little bit threatened by it? When companies start using Bitcoin on a regular basis to take payments, they would then have to be honest, like they're supposed to be, about their accounting and telling the government what their income was and what their liabilities were and what their payments were. The challenge, though, is that if they're not going to a bank where the U.S. can subpoena the bank records and immediately look at what banking is happening. In other words, if they see that there might be fraud, they can't just subpoena the Bitcoin blockchain. So Bitcoin is actually a threat to the current financial system in that way. But as, like, for example, what's happening in Canada right now. Canada, because of their Emergency Powers Act that they've implemented, are looking to freeze the accounts, the bank accounts of the truckers, so that they can't get the money that was put into the GoFundMe fund. What happens when the current banking system is a threat to people is people run to a place where it's not threatening. But the converse is also true, where if people run to a place that's not threatening to people, the banking system loses control, or the federal governments of the countries lose control of the people spending their money. Okay? So can you begin to see how blockchain could actually impact and disrupt in a similar way that Bitcoin or other financial means could disrupt? When Bitcoin first came out and the nation of Greece was having trouble with their finances, there were runs on the bank because people were afraid that the banking system was going to fail. Inflation was running really rampant. A lot of Greek citizens were starting to put their money in Bitcoin. And so they stopped people from taking money out of the banks and only limited a certain amount coming out of the banks, barely enough for people to survive on, so that they wouldn't be bailing all their money out and sending it into Bitcoin and further bankrupting the country, because the country had to have transactions in order to collect taxes in order to balance their books. So you've got an obvious amount of disruption happening just in the financial markets. And so eventually, if you just extrapolate that to other industries that are going to start implementing blockchain, you're going to see a disruption there. Let's look at insurance companies. Insurance companies deal with cookie cutter contracts in most cases. Very seldom do they issue a homeowner's policy that's any different from one house to the next house. The only difference really is in the total value that you're going to insure a house for. And so with the basic provisions, people could start working with a kind of a Geico situation where you log online and you can get your contract. It goes on a blockchain and you have access to that contract forever. You pay your premiums are recorded on the blockchain. And the efficiencies gained by that would mean that the insurance company would rarely have to talk to a customer or to a client except when they needed to adjudicate a claim. You get into an accident or something, and then you have to adjudicate a claim, of course. But even that is getting to be automated, because a lot of times you can take a picture of the accident on your cell phone, upload it to their website, and they immediately send you a check. Well, if it's all blockchain enabled, what happens if you have a Bitcoin account and they ask you if you have a Bitcoin account and it comes to you in Bitcoin? Or let's even take that a step further. What would happen if the United States, like they're currently talking about, digitizes the dollar? And so all of a sudden, it's like the digital yuan in China that's just starting to take off. You've got a digital dollar. And with that digital dollar, you may never have to deal with a bank, much less deal with other entities that would take and transfer money back and forth, because you would have your own digital wallet. Once you have your own digital wallet, you carry your account with you. So maybe you'll have some banking services like debit cards, but who needs a debit card when you can just spend your digital currency directly instead of using a debit card to go through a clearinghouse through MasterCard or Visa and then get taken out of your account? It wipes out all those middlemen. And where does the banking industry go then if the U.S. digitizes its currency? I don't know. The only thing I worry about, really, if there's a digital U.S. dollar, is that if the banking system provides all of the nodes on the blockchain network that run the digital U.S. dollar, if that's the case, I think we're much more safe, with the exception of currently the government has subpoena powers. They can subpoena bank records, but with a few strokes on the keyboard, it's likely that with a digital dollar they could find out whatever transaction they want to find out about anybody anywhere in the U.S. and download it in a moment's notice. In fact, they could know in seconds that we just went to Walmart and bought dinner, which kind of alerts me to some privacy issues. But I don't know how they would ensure privacy and have a digital dollar also. So it's I think I'd rather have Bitcoin than a digital dollar. In fact, I probably would get an exchange that would take digital dollars and convert them to Bitcoin almost immediately, and then if places take Bitcoin, I'd transact in Bitcoin. If that ever came to pass, I don't know how fast the U.S. dollar would be digitized or how fast they're moving toward that, but we'll see. They're talking about it now. Currently, I don't trust our government all that much. I don't trust that when they have power that they can actually exercise it in a proper way according to the Constitution. So the digital dollar makes me nervous because of that. If you enjoyed the content that you saw today and would like to help me grow the channel, hover your mouse over my picture to the left and click on subscribe. There are also other videos showing on the screen that you might enjoy.